conversation. And I'm going to do something really interesting here, that I'm going to commend the right wing for having a civil war. So us on the left, we're supposed to snicker and go, oh, look at them disagreeing. But you're supposed to disagree.
Yes.
You're not supposed to be robots. And the fact that they're disagreeing with one another is actually a great sign. That means that they're thinking for themselves. So in terms of what Vivek and Elon said, Vivek is both right and wrong. So if he wants to celebrate nerds, I love it. I was an honor student. I went to good schools. I was a nerd, and I'm proud of it, right? But he didn't have to put down jocks and other Americans, et cetera. I was also a jock, right? I also played middle linebacker for a football team, and there's nothing wrong with jocks. There's nothing wrong with any Americans, right? So in terms of the H-1B visas, look, they've produced some wonderful results here in America, and I love that we're getting the best talent from all across the world and coming here. It makes us stronger, and you see that, and especially if you're a right-winger and you support Elon Musk, you can see, well, you know, he was an H-1B guy, so it made us stronger, right? And by the way, Steve Jobs' dad was a Syrian Muslim immigrant. That immigration made us stronger. Now, having said that, I do empathize with what Vinny is saying. We're getting a lot of people who are progressives, both from the audience, but then you're seeing it from Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna in Congress as well, going, you know, this H-1B visa does get abused sometimes, where they just use it to hire cheaper engineers from across the world. So maybe there's a fix where we say, hey, you got to go maybe 25% above what the market is to try to hire Americans first. And then if you can't find someone, then maybe we can go to an H-1B visa. Maybe there's a fix that where you unite the left and the right's valid criticism of the H-1B visa without getting into anti-immigrant rhetoric and way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, Batsy, I saw you nodding there. I've got to say, I've never heard Cenk sound quite so calm and reasonable. I think his journey in the last few months has been absolutely riveting to observe. But Batsy, I mean, I agree with Cenk. I do think that the Conservatives in America are having a genuinely open and quite rigorous debate about this issue. What's wrong with that? It's the Democrats who seem incapable of having the same kind of reasonable debate with each other about anything, isn't it? I mean, aren't we at a place where the more reasonable party has become the Republicans here?
I wish I could be as gracious as the four of you. I am absolutely livid about this because Donald Trump was put into office by millions and millions of Americans who were Democrats 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, over one campaign promise, and it was to significantly limit immigration, both legal and illegal, because, of course, both legal and illegal immigration reduce American wages because labor is like everything else. It adheres to the ironclad law of supply and demand. The more you have of it, the cheaper it is. And we should want, whether we are progressive leftists or whether we're in the MAGA movement, we should want American workers to make decent wages so that our neighbors are living the American dream, not just the elites. So in general, this is a massive betrayal of his #1 campaign promise. But let me just address very briefly the H-1B argument specifically. So H-1Bs are defended on the grounds that, #1, we don't have the talent here, so we need to import it. And #2, that we're doing a sort of brain drain from the rest of the world. Let's bring in the best and the brightest. These are both nonsense, and I urge your viewers to look the stats up. I'm going to repeat a few of them, but don't take my word for it. Look it up. Right now, there are 17 million people living in this country who have a degree in STEM, and only 9 million of them are employed in STEM jobs. There are a whole bunch of them, many millions, who are employed in other jobs, and 3 million who are not employed at all in STEM jobs. So we have the supply of labor here, and if we went into the inner city and we went into Appalachia, by God, you would find brilliant Americans there. The problem is that the industry has a massive downward pressure on wages, so it is not attracting the brilliant and the brightest of homegrown Native American talent. What we're doing is importing a whole bunch of people. So what about this argument that these are the best and the brightest? Well, Pierce, you already mentioned we have a visa for the best and the brightest, and you have it. The H-1B visa is being used to import an indentured slave caste who are tied to an employer. They make on average $40,000 a year less than Americans. There are 500,000 H-1B visas here, and 30% of STEM jobs are done by foreign workers, people who were born somewhere else. That is, by definition, not the best and the brightest. This is not a brain drain of the world. It is a wage drain of Americans who should be middle class, and instead their wages are being sucked upward in a funnel to billionaires like Elon Musk.
Well, A, that was a fantastic rant. And secondly,
Thank you,
it's the
Piers.
kind of thing you might have heard from a Republican a few years ago. I mean, I find what's really